right, hi everybody. I'm Lauren. I'm half of Hops Geek News. Matt is still playing catch up from his LA vacation, so he is not joining us today. But I am joined by Kylar Merrell. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you got it.
Awesome. From Foreign Press Comics. So you can go ahead and give him a follow on the Instagram. And he is going to be talking to us about a comic book that also has to do with cooking. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about this comic that you got and it's not a Kickstarter campaign, it's Zoop. So Z-O-O-P, similar to Oscar, who we had on the other day. So we're seeing more of this. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. I'm Kylar Merrell. I'm the, founder of Foreign Press Comics. It's basically just my label. It's just the thing that I've been able to put. This is a book that my stamp of approval, basically. And so that's all that is. And Comics from the Kitchen is our newest campaign. It's our newest anthology project. We've done one every year. And this one is all about food and food memories, and just told through a comic form. And then along with each story, you get a recipe to go with it. And so it's like 20 stories with 30-something creators telling just great, really personal stories, and just giving great recipes. And I just think it's a really great fusion of the two concepts.
Yeah. So one of our first questions that we always like to do before we get more into your current project is, what is your geek origin story? Because if you're writing comic books, and I see your Spider-Verse poster in the background as well.
Yeah.
So what was your first introduction to the quote-unquote geek life?
I don't know. That's I don't know. I remember I had a friend in second grade who showed me Star Wars, or he was really into Star Wars. I had never seen Star Wars, didn't really know what it was. I think my parents probably thought it was inappropriate or something. Sorry, my dog, you can hear that. My dog found a carrot in the corner. So we gave it to him earlier. He ignored it earlier. Now he's decided it's
now
fun.
He's going to town.
So, okay, great. But yeah, so, that might be it, because that's what I think of when I think of, geekiness, geek, whatever, is your typical sci-fi fantasy things like that. So probably that, but as far as comic books go, I had access to a few growing up, especially where I lived. We had these special APHIS comics because I lived on a military base in Japan for a while. But anyway, they had these comics that were partnered with APHIS. So those, and then I specifically remember the Marvel Daredevil movie, because I wasn't allowed to watch it because, again, inappropriate. It had the devil in the title, so wasn't supposed to watch that. But
Gotcha.
That's kind of one of the first superhero things I think I can remember, and I kind of hadn't thought about that in a while. So
nice. We get a lot of Star Wars, and we get a lot of X-Men '97 as well. So
yeah,
that's always fun to hear, that got a lot of people into comics and
exactly,
just the geek life in general. So how did you go from being a fan of the quote-unquote geek life to actually creating your own comic book?
I had always wanted to be a writer in some form or fashion, or just some kind of creative. I just always wanted to. Ever since I was a kid, I've always loved to write and to draw and things like that. And then when I got into comics, specifically big time in my freshman year, is when I was okay, I want to focus on the comics medium. And then I always just put it off to the side until in college, and I was going through a really bad depression, I was going through a really bad depression, and I just decided, why not do it? Why not do it now? And also somewhere I saw something to the sentiment of, your work's not to everybody's taste, but it's going to be out there for somebody. There's creators who I hate that others love, and others I love that other people don't really like. And then just hearing that kind of gave me enough of a confidence to be you know what, that's right, let's just do it.
Right.
And so I started just making little short superhero comics online, and that's pretty much where it started.
Nice. Yeah, if everybody liked the same thing, it would be a boring world we would live in.
Exactly. And that's how we get so many different creators and really cool people, because we allow for that diversity.
Right. And if we've learned anything from the internet, there is something for everyone, and somebody's going to like it.
Exactly.
So this is a little bit different, though, because you've put a cooking spin on it. So where did that idea come from? Have you always been into cooking, or where did you connect the comic books and the cooking?
This is the first time I guess this isn't the first time. I've always liked to cook somewhat, and then probably, sometime in college I really got into it and like really wanted to, or maybe high school even, because at one point I thought about going to culinary school. It was like a brief thought in my mind. But so I'd always been into it, but hadn't really combined the two. I read Anthony Bourdain has a book that I would like, Get Jiro, it's comics, but it's about food. And so, but like as far as for me to create something, not until I knew I wanted to do an anthology, and I saw somewhere, the old sentiment, do what you love. And so I was like, I love to cook, let's just do that. And so let's make that the anthology. And so it kind of just, it wasn't like there was one thing, but prior to this, I didn't really have any experience in it,
Mm-hmm. So it was just an organic transition of combining things that you love.
Yeah, exactly. It was like I have a need to do another anthology. I want to do something about cooking. Why not just combine those two things into one? Like it just kind of turned out to be like, and if I had already had an anthology, I probably would have put cooking into a different project, because I do have another one that's like vaguely in the works that it's like not even worth talking about, but I probably would have put that energy into that comic instead.
Okay.
It would have gone somewhere, but because it just happened to be at this other time where I had a need for something else, it just kind of fit right in that slot perfectly.
Nice. Now, can you give us an idea of any kind of recipes? Are there specific recipes that you have in your book, or is it a little bit all over the place?
It's not just me. It's 20 something different recipes from a bunch of people. I wasn't confident enough in my cooking ability to be like, hey, I'm going to make a whole cookbook all about me, all with my recipes. I was like, I can't do that. And so I just brought in other people. And so, I have one in there as well. It's for fish and hush puppies, with, it's just the way my grandpa used to make it. We have meatballs, which that got on the news in it was on for Father's Day. Jimmy Gasparo showed his dad his comic, which was about his dad's meatball recipe, and it was a really cute video. It was on Twitter, and his dad was a little emotional about it, and so it was really cool. I got sidetracked there. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That's what podcasts are for, sidetracking.
We, as far as recipes, we have banana bread. What else? Pinchos, fried boniato. We have 2 different kinds of pizza, I believe. Lasagna.
So you got a little bit of everything, kind of.
Meatball soup, yeah, a little bit of everything, yeah.
Nice. Now, well, when you have any kind of recipe book, everybody has recipes from, we have stuff from both sets of my grandparents and everything. So every recipe book comes from all over the place. So that's kind of neat that you pulled from everywhere.
Exactly. And it's just, for me, it's like, do I put it on my books with all my cookbooks, or do I put it with my comics? Like, I don't know where it goes.
There you go. Maybe you start keeping your comics in your kitchen.
Exactly.
That won't be good. I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
There you go. That's awesome. So you've worked on other projects as well. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the other ones? Because I know you also with, you said you were referred to us through Christian, which obviously we just had on our Indiana Jones episode as well. So tell us a little bit about some of the other works you do other than the current Comics from the Kitchen.
So I have several other things that I've done, just smaller projects. I have a book called Valkyrian, a book called Terminal, just little one-shots that I put together. We have our Fletcher Cross anthology that was our last year's anthology. It was a narrative thing. But I got to, so I mostly do writing and then a little bit of art. But I've been getting into lettering and trying to, pursue that more as more than just hey, I need a letterer for a project. Let's just have me do it. I've been trying to actually be a letterer outside of writing. And so that's how I got into the Fugitive Poem Containment Breach anthology. Fugitive Poems is the company, but their Containment Breach anthology that Christian puts together. I got to be in on that, and so I'm in on the 3rd volume and the 4th volume.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's how I got to be with him, and so I'm done a couple other things for lettering, but mostly it's just me writing and drawing my own projects, and they're all at foreignpresscomics.com.
Now, anybody who is interested in Fugitive Poems, if you're watching on YouTube, you can also go to our podcast. That episode is on both our YouTube platform and all of our podcasting platforms, and you can hear all about that because it's a whole bunch of different stories, and you guys they seem like they're still cranking out stories. So definitely check them out. That's definitely worth checking out. So you had mentioned before when we were talking via email that, you know, what a great thing to do recipes with comics and beer. So going back to your recipe comic book, are there any specific beers you might pair with any specific recipes?
Oh, well, with mine, I would say, I don't know if I'll say it. No, which it comes in yeah, it's Coors. It's Coors, just a regular
Oh, the
Coors
little
Light.
ones, the
Yeah,
ones
the
that
little ones,
Johnny
the little
Lawrence
sub
drinks. Oh,
ones.
he drinks
Yeah,
the
and
banquets.
okay. Well, just, yeah, well, just, it has to be the little bottles for this. It has to.
So a nice
Um,
light beer.
exactly. A nice light beer. But that specifically, for personal reasons, that's the vibe.
Gotcha. So are you going for a little bit nostalgia?
Exactly. Because
Okay.
that's my whole story is all about nostalgia. And so,
Okay.
I just kind of got to keep with that.
I like that. And food, I mean, you can taste it. I mean, think about just Christmas alone or the holidays. You know, you taste a certain
Exactly.
kind of food and it's like, oh, it's the holidays.
Exactly.
So,
That's pretty much how we came up with the original prompt. I was just like, we all have, maybe it's like something you had in college or like something your mom used to make or whatever, a Michelin star restaurant, whatever. We all have those memories. And it's kind of crazy how like they're just so intertwined because like yesterday I made fried green tomatoes for the first time in
mm,
like 3 years. And I tasted them and I was immediately thought my grandpa, like
aw,
immediately, because that's who
yeah.
used to make fried green tomatoes. And so, yeah, it's just crazy how that works and how it's like seemed to be more apparent to me after working on this.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's a little bit
Yeah,
of, you know, it's special to you. It's more
yeah,
than just doing a comic. So you
yeah.
had mentioned you do some of the art and the writing. Did you do all the writing and the art for your specific
Ye-
ones?
Yes, for my story, I did the writing, the art, and the lettering. Did the whole thing. I did it in a bit of a
Wow.
different style than I normally do, but I think it fit the vibe. But yeah,
So in doing that on your, because most of the time we have either the writer on or the artist, and we always ask, you know, how that collaborative process works. So that must be nice because you're getting exactly, I imagine,
Mhm.
what you're imagining in your head is definitely going on that paper. There's no having to do the back and forth. So how does that work though? Do you, when you're writing and drawing, are you writing out a script first? Are you drawing first? Or are you doing kind of a combination of at the same time?
Yeah. Usually I write myself a whole script and go from there. But for this one, I really didn't. This one was weird for me. I just kind of wrote essentially a poem, just about, fishing and because that's my story about fishing with my grandpa and all that. And so I started writing a poem and kind of came out to 3 stanzas. And I was like, okay. And then I just kind of put them all on their own lines. I was like, okay, that's my comic. And so I didn't have any other script other than that. There's nothing in my story with anybody saying anything or anything like that. It's pretty straightforward. So the poem I wrote basically just became panel descriptions for me. And I was just like, plus it helps anytime I'm doing the writing and the art, like you said, I don't have to have that back and forth. I
Mm-hmm.
know exactly what it is. So I know when I write it, like, okay, this is the angle it's from, this is the thing it's kind of focused on, this part's going to be really dark or whatever. So that's a lot easier. But it was just, this one was even weirder for me just because it came from so little. It came from
Yeah.
literally like 12 lines, I think, of writing. And it became full 3 pages. So
Nice. Now, when you worked with Fugitive Poems, were you writing, drawing, or both there?
there I was only lettering. So for that, there weren't as many notes, just because I think lettering a lot of times is just kind of an overlooked art form.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I would say that I'm biased because I'm a letterer. But I didn't get I got a few notes like, you know, like one of my sound effects wasn't like, hey, that's not the sound that it would make. And so I was like, okay, I'll go change my squelch to like a squish or something like that.
Right.
Or like one of them, I think it was like, hey, change the color of this sound effect because it clashes or something. And, just little things like that, little small design notes. But I mean, luckily I didn't have to do a lot of correcting. But I mean, lettering it's not a rocket science. It's not rocket science.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty easy.
But it's still an art form for
Yeah,
sure.
it is. Exactly. There's a lot to it, and I don't want to diminish it by saying it's not rocket science. But I mean, I think anybody can do passable lettering if you just put like, you know, a couple hours into it. Like you can get something good.
I don't know. My husband won't even write it on an envelope. He makes me do it for him. So I don't know if
Don't
everyone
even get me started on my handwriting. I hand lettered the one that's in this story, and it's rough. I think I'm gonna have to go back and redo it because I was like, I don't feel comfortable putting this out there. It's not neat enough.
But you're also putting that, you know, it's one thing you're dropping something in the mail. As long as it makes it there, that's all that matters.
That's true, yeah.
But I mean, I think every artist is going to be their hardest critic.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
So we don't want to keep you too long. So your campaign ends July 13th, correct?
Yep.
So
yes.
That is specifically for the Comics from the Kitchen is the campaign that is currently running, and it is on Zoop, Z-O-O-P, and that runs out July 13th. So if you want to check that out, go do so. It's similar to Kickstarter. It's just a different platform. I kind of like that we're getting some competition. We're not just seeing Kickstarter everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's good. And where else can people find you? Because obviously this is not your only work. We've also, you know, we talked about a few others. So tell people where they can just find you in general if they want to follow you for future projects and past projects.
You can follow me at fpresscomics on Twitter and foreignpresscomics on Instagram, Facebook, and occasionally on TikTok. We're trying to get on, you know, the Blue Sky, I think, is the new one that everybody's on, but it's still in beta. So we're working on that. But everything else, just look up Foreign Press Comics and you'll find it.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, those links will be in the description.
Also, real quick, subscribe to our YouTube page because I can't go live on YouTube until I have 50 subscribers. So that's something I would like to do, but I can't do it. So now it's like I'm on Instagram now, but you know, want to get to YouTube.
Well, so. I don't think we are subscribed yet, so I will subscribe as soon as we get off here.
We have like 2 videos up, so it's no big deal.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to have you on in the future for a full episode. This was our second Creators Live episode, so do expect more of these. We, you know, want to obviously promote independent comic book writers as much as we promote independent beer. So go shop local, go drink local, you know, buy local comic books, go to your local comic book shop, just do all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on, and cheers, everyone.